What's up guys, Jens Garcia here with my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4. This is one of the most anticipated 1080p phones for this year, and just like its predecessor, the Galaxy S3, these are just flying off the shelves, and in fact they're selling a lot quicker than the predecessor. Now there's a mixed feelings when this phone came out after consumers witnessed the unveiling of the HTC One. A big thanks to our friends at Mobi City for sending out the device. So without further ado, this is my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4. The Galaxy S4 has that slight resemblance to the Note 2, and I know a lot of people have been saying that this looks like the Galaxy S3, and I kind of disagree to that. To be honest, I picture this phone as a smaller version of the Note 2. What's very impressive about this phone is how it has almost the exact dimensions as the Galaxy S3, and the fact that Samsung still managed to thinner down the phone, and it just really wowed me. Now considering that this phone has a bigger screen and battery. Now if you notice that the design of the Galaxy S3, with the Galaxy S4 you'll find less spaces at the front, especially where the home button is. Now comparing to the S3, you'll definitely find more spaces on the device. So with the Galaxy S4, it's more sort of a compact, so you will have like almost edge-to-edge display. And I guess the biggest differences between the S4 and the S3 is how the corners on the Galaxy S4 are not as curved as the S3. The phone is lightweight and very comfortable to hold. Now if you've seen my video comparison of the design between the HTC One and this, I did mention that the Galaxy S4 is a lot more comfortable to hold. Now some of you might disagree because the phone has a bigger display and comparing it to the HTC One, but to be honest, I didn't really have any trouble using the phone. Now I've got a normal size hands, so just to give you an idea. I guess the biggest disappointment to a lot of people, including myself, is the build of the phone. Now Samsung still used the same plastic with sort of like honeycomb textured embedded to the back and front of the device. Now comparing it to the HTC One, you can really feel straight away how nicely built the HTC One is comparing to the S4. Now I do understand how it will affect the production, but they could have done something like what they've did with the Wave series and how it's got a metal back. But other than that, I do love the design of the phone overall. And just to let you know, the chrome finish around the phone is just plastic with brushed aluminum finish. Now taking a look at the placements of the phone, at the front you'll find the LED notification light, earpiece, gesture and proximity sensors, and the 2-megapixel front-facing camera. Looking below that are your capacitive buttons as well as the gold old home button. On the back is a 13-megapixel camera with an LED flash, the Samsung logo, and a speaker. On the left hand side of the phone is a power and lock button. On the other side is the volume rocker. On top of the phone is a 3.5mm headphone jack, microphone, and the IR blaster, which lets you use the device as a remote control. The micro USB port is also located on the bottom along with the microphone. The Galaxy S4 has got a 4.99-inch Super AMOLED HD display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and a pixel density of 441 ppi. I've always been a fan of AMOLED displays ever since the first one because you really have this superb black levels and very vibrant colors whenever you are viewing colorful photos or just by watching videos. Now although it's a great display, there's also going to be some issues, for instance the colors, because sometimes the colors can be inaccurate, and that's where the Super LCD 3 displays on the HTC One comes in, as it gives you more natural colors as opposed to the AMOLED HD display on the S4. Both types of displays are great and none of them are perfect really, so it's a personal preference. Some of you might agree or some of you might not. It's also quite visible outdoors, but not as visible as the HTC Ones. Although it has a slightly lower pixel density, you won't really be able to tell the difference unless you use a magnifying glass. The texts are very sharp and crisp, with no signs of any pixelation. Having that almost 5-inch display together with its full HD resolution is just a great user experience. There are two types of Galaxy S4s powered by different processors. There are the octa-core and the quad-core models. Unfortunately, I've only got the quad-core version here. Although based from the people who have used both versions, they didn't really find a significant differences between the two. Now this is clocked at 1.9 GHz, which is pretty crazy, and it's also using the latest Snapdragon 600 processor from Qualcomm. It's also accompanied by 2 GB of RAM, I must say DDR3 RAM, and a quad-core Adreno 320 GPU. So basically, in other words, it's packed with all the latest high-end components. I did different types of benchmark tests against the biggest rival of the Galaxy S4, but the Galaxy S4 just beats it in every possible way. Now, although the Galaxy S4 wins the benchmark test, when it comes to real-world usage though, the HTC One just felt a lot faster and smoother comparing to the S4. Now sure, it's got a better components, but the latest TouchWiz is just killing the performance of the phone. It tends to lag a lot and stutter once the gestures and all other features are turned on. And in fact, when I first booted up the phone, I've only had a little over 9 GB of system storage, as opposed to at least 12 to 14 GB of storage. The 2600 mAh battery may seem a lot bigger as well compared to the 2100 mAh battery on the Galaxy S3, but to be honest, it didn't really feel like there's a huge improvements on the Galaxy S4. I usually use my phone at college from 9 AM to 4 PM, and by the time I get home, I will only have 20% left. Now, whenever I'm at college, I use my data connection simultaneously to browse the web. So the battery is still not as good comparing to the Note 2, which really has a great battery life. Now the reason why there's not much improvements is because of the higher clock speed rate and the DDR3 RAM, which consumes more power. Now even though I've used the power saver feature in it, it really didn't make any significant difference. Now there are some hidden innovations in the S4 as what Samsung mentioned, and they are the sensors built into the phone, which are mainly used with the applications and gestures on the latest TouchWiz, on which we're going to be talking about a little later. The Galaxy S4 comes with a 13 megapixel rear camera with autofocus compared to the 8 megapixel camera on the S3, plus a 2 megapixel front-facing camera. Now both cameras can record 1080p videos at 30 frames per second. The camera at the front is actually quite impressive. The end results gave me a natural look, so meaning the colors were very accurate. The only thing I've noticed with it is that the ISO could be a little better, comparing it to the HTC One that has a better sensitivity. The 13 megapixel camera is a huge step up from the 8 megapixel camera from its predecessor. The image quality isn't actually all bad at all. During daylight, I was able to capture some really sharp and detailed photos, which in my opinion turned out a lot better than the HTC One. The macro capability is superb as well, which is quite surprising for a smartphone. Now taking photos at night could be a little better as it is having trouble picking up some light, whereas with the HTC One, since it has a bigger sensor, therefore taking low light shots is a lot better than the S4. There are plenty of editing choices to choose from with its new and redesigned UI, but basically most camera features are the same as the HTC One. But the ones that are not are the sound in shot and dual shot. Sound in shot basically lets you record a few seconds of voice and add it to the photo. So if you want to send a birthday message to someone, for example, then the sound in shot feature will do the job for you. Now the dual shot is another feature where it enables you to use both front and rear cameras. You can also add a frame to it and adjust the size of it. Now this isn't something that I will always going to be using all the time, but it is still nice to have that option if you really want to be creative. What you gotta love about the S4 is that it's running the latest Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean, so meaning you'll have almost all the Jelly Bean goodness, like the new lock screen for example, which you can now customize by adding widgets, as well as Daydream, which is basically a screensaver. Sadly, there's no Photosphere on this. Now, I love using Photosphere because it lets me take a 360-degree panoramic shots, so I guess we're only going to be seeing them on the Nexus devices. Or if you know how to read your phone, then you can always install it. Samsung maintained the TouchWiz look on the latest UI, with not so much of a difference comparing to the previous TouchWiz. Take a look at the status bar for example. Instead of just sliding to find the toggles that you're looking for, it now includes a button where it displays all the toggles so you don't have to slide from left to right. The other major change is the settings page. To me, it looks a lot more organized, as what they've done is they've parted the settings into different parts, so you now have tabs for your connections, device, accounts, and more. So that's great to see instead of just scrolling up and down. All I can say about the latest TouchWiz is how it's jam-packed with so many new features, which is pretty crazy. We all know how Samsung loves their consumers to really enjoy and interact with their products, and that's exactly what they've done with the Galaxy S4. I'm not gonna go through all of it, but I'm just going to be showing you some of my favorites. The first one is Quick Glance. It displays your status information just by moving your hand above the sensor. Now you can also customize this, so depending on what information you want to be displayed. So for example, you want your Twitter or Facebook notifications to show up, then you can always customize that on the settings page. The next one is Air Jump. Moving your hand up and down whenever you're on email or internet will scroll the page. And if you move your hand from left to right, it will then go to the next tab. Then you've also got the smart features like the smart pause, for example. Now I find this to be really cool because when you look away from the phone, the video will pause automatically. Now it works very well and I haven't really had any problems with it, even though I was actually a bit worried in the first place. Last but not the least is Air View. Now what's cool about this feature on the S4 is that you don't need to use the stylus to actually preview the content. Unlike the Note 2, you will need to use the stylus for this feature. All you have to do is to hover your finger to preview the content on that folder. It also works the same with video playback and emails. Samsung also added some new apps including S Health and Watch On. I really enjoyed using the S Health as this is something that would help me a lot whenever I'm at the gym. Not only it detects my steps, but it basically recognizes all of my movements. You can also add up all the meals that you've had to find out how much calories you've had. Now Watch On is another cool app and its functionality is about the same as the TV app on the HTC One. So you'll have the ability to control your TV and check out the TV guide. The UI of this is quite simple and same with setting it up. So if you have multiple remote controls, then this will definitely solve your problem. The only biggest issue I find with the latest TouchWiz is that it lags and stutters a lot. In my opinion, Samsung really hasn't worked on the optimization of all the new features because really the phone should be able to handle it with no problems. Just to give you a quick tip, if you're not going to be using all the features, just turn it off as it speeds up the phone. Even though Samsung really made us all hyped about this device, I really didn't get that wow effect comparing to the Galaxy S3, but being said that, the Galaxy S4 is a great phone. It's got heaps of new features even though I find it to be too much for a user. And even though it doesn't have the best build, there's still benefits from having the plastic back. One main reason is that you can easily change the battery once it's faulty. And secondly, if you scratch it, then there are tons of back covers that you can buy online. So there you have it guys, that is my full review of the Samsung Galaxy S4. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my videos, please do subscribe. I'm Jess Garcia and I'll see you all in the next one.